right, welcome. So one of the things that I'm continuing to do today is I'm prepping paint. So what you can see is here's an example of the new ones. What I've done is I've emptied a tube of paint into a container, labeled it. Here's some of my older ones. Okay, I cannot find these containers anymore, so I had to go with something different. In the process of looking at some of my other paints that you saw, I realized, here, where is it? Like this one. Okay, see how chunky it is down in there? I had to mix it with water in order to try to help kind of bring that watercolor back to life. And I have left these paints in storage for way too long. And so some of them I want to make sure that I am going through and prepping them all so that they're capable of being used for painting. And so I'm going to do that. Normally I would do this over time, but I thought that perhaps you might enjoy being able to kind of see this process if you like to paint like this. So a lot of times people don't like to put out so much because it does dry out the watercolor. I'm drying it out on purpose. Sometimes people like to use, when they use the wet watercolor, they like it that way. They want that wetness. And so for them, doing this would be absolutely crazy. However, I like doing this. And you'll get a little bit of a sense of kind of why. The way that I paint, I will add water into this container and I will use a brush and I will help pick up some of the pigment because it's now dried, and I can control the amount of pigment that's in the water that I use based on how much of the pigment I use my brush to pull up and pull off. So it's like having a gigantic pan, but I'm able to control, like if I put a lot of water and don't go in and pick up a lot of pigment, then it's a very light shade. If I want it to be very, very dark, very rich, very vibrant, I put in a little bit of water and I'll mix and brush and use my brush to pull up as much pigment as possible. That intensifies the color. So I'm kind of able to do some of the things that as an artist you would often do, either using a pan watercolor, if you're doing a liquid watercolor, if you're using it from the tube and in a tray, you would be using your paintbrush and controlling the amount of water that's on your paper. And I do that in advance in here. It gives me a certain level of control over the intensity of the color, as well as how much. As an abstract artist, the technique that I use, I pour a lot of watercolor. I pour the paint out from the container. And I'll kind of get more into the technique that I use for painting and getting in my initial washes and layers in later. But the paint you use matters. When there are artist grade materials and there are student grade materials. And a lot of that has to do with manufacturing, the quality of the pigment. And it does, you will be able to see the difference if you grab something that's student grade versus something that's professional grade. And you'll see a difference in terms of the quality of the pigment and the quality of the colors you're going to get. So I thought that today I would, I have to do this, so that I thought I'd take you along on the ride. It's not the most, not necessarily the most exciting thing in the world. Not all things connected to painting or doing art is the most thrilling in the universe, because as an artist you have to prep your materials, you have to do prep work. If I was if I used a pan, I would have to set up my tray and set up the watercolors that I wanted. Excuse me, I got water off to the side. I would set that up cadmium yellow light. I would have to set that up for my use. And I guess also here's the thing, is that for me, I hate mixing colors. It seems kind of strange, but I don't like to mix colors. It's kind of I do not know why. I want every available color that has been manufactured. I think some of it is because it saves me time. Some would say, oh, well, it's just because you get lazy having access to all of these things. Some of it is that I like being able to pull. I like being able to kind of see. I use a lot of color theory in my painting. So I'm relying on my understanding of color theory so that when I lay down the colors, I know I'm going to get a good color combination out of that product. I do not want to sit down and put something down and have it turn to brown if I don't want it to be. That's kind of where, especially dealing with watercolor, when I work in washes in multiple layers, I like to know that what I'm going to get is a good intense or light, depending upon what color value I want, color variation. Okay. One of the things to keep in mind when you do something like this, I want you to see that these are ridged here. When you do this along your hand here, I did some of these and I had to take a break because it just ate up my hand. This is actually very hard on your hands to do. So today I came prepared. I have some lotion off to the side so I can try to help my hands. The other thing is to have a pair of needle nose pliers or a pair of pliers. I like to use needle nose pliers because they're very versatile. And I realized that I cannot find mine. So I have a trip to the hardware store coming. So I can replace my needle nose pliers for what it's worth. And because being able to pull these off, especially if I've opened them. So that's the other thing. When you do pan watercolor, and you use a tray and you just take out a little bit of watercolor at a time. Now, if you are painting regularly, it's not going to be a big deal, but I am finding that because, life, I have picked some of these up and had to put them back down again, and for a very long period of time, or it's a color that it turns out that I'm not using very frequently, they will dry out in the tube. And then it becomes extremely difficult to get these bad boys off, and your paint dries up. All right, so I tap these down. I am trying to remove any air. I'm trying to make sure that if I can get it to kind of move all the way around the bottom of the cup is best. And then you just kind of set it off to the side. So we'll continue to dry. Like this one. There it goes. Sometimes the end. So if you've got a color that's been sitting around for a while, like this one has, the paint gets kind of dried out in the opening, and you have to, here, let's see if I can, I want to get everything out, so it's like squeezing a tube of toothpaste, trying to get that last little bit to come out. There we go. Again, I gotta tap this around. So I'm going to spend a bunch of time today. So I'm going to leave. I'm going to turn my sound off. Although I guess some would say, oh, ASMR. And I'm like, okay, I don't know that this makes much of a sound. It's just part of the process. It's just part of a process. Oh yeah. Okay, so this one I want to show you, so because you can't quite see what it's looking like when it comes out the tube. So this one has started to separate. Again, paint will react in different ways when it's been set around for a long time, the way these have. And I mentioned before that pigment, when you're already kind of going to paint, it's basically pigment and a binder. And in this instance, it's a gum arabic solution. And so this has started to separate. Can you see? Okay, so some of this where it's more like okay, so this one's real slidey, it's real runny. If you can see where the paint is not really actually fully there, it's kind of got this little bit of kind of whitish color in it, kind of a clear, and that is because it started to separate from the pigment and the gum arabic solution. So I'm going to just kind of move this one around in order to mix it, get a little bit better. You just take a end of something, and so one of the things that occurs as an artist, you're willing to use just about anything to that's handy. So I'm going to stir this together so I can kind of remix that gum arabic solution with the pigment and then allow it to dry. And then because I stuck my handy dandy screwdriver, I've got paper towels off to the side that I'm going to use to wipe off my screwdriver. And then I'll go hit it with some water. Yellow deep. That's just kind of part of the process. Ow. Ah. That one hurt. One of the, I wonder if there's a way for me to get to where you can see this a little bit better. Here, bear with me. Oh, there it goes. Hey, look. Ah, look at that. All right. Who knew? Get this from the side. There it goes. Come on. Come on. Give me the rest of the paint. Now, of course, as an artist, you're going to try to squeeze out every little bit of paint that's in the bottle, in that like container that you can. Tap it out, try to get rid of any air bubbles that might be stuck in there, and then you move on to the next one. Well, you can probably hear there's some extra noise going on. Uh-oh. All right, this one is going to be a challenge. I can tell this one has already started to dry out. So if you can look at this, you can see that that's just dried. See how that's coming out? That is dried paint. It's still got a little enough moisture in it so that maybe I can move it down. But this one was opened and not sealed properly, even though it was very hard to open. That just happens. And that's why I'm doing this, is so that I can try to rescue some of these, because I don't want to have these go to waste. It hurts my heart to see good art supplies just ruined. These aren't ruined, so keep that in mind. It's not ruined. Here, let me make sure you can see that. But it's definitely not in its best condition. Oi. It makes it hard to get the paint out the tube. And that is why my hands hurt. Come on, let it go. So it's super thick. It becomes very difficult to get out of the tube, so you'll notice the difference. Now, guys, sometimes that's a function of the pigment itself. But this really is that one had been opened and it started to dry out. But again, like the other, so see, it is starting to come, it is allowing me to pump out some of the air and kind of get it to move around in that container. So that's kind of nice. Let's stop with the yellows. How about I do some purples? I only have a few purples left. Let me pull these off to the side. But that's really it. So this is kind of the ideas here. So let's see. What can I share with you while I do this? It's kind of one of those things where I'm like, captive audience gets to sit here and watch me do, prep paint. Super exciting. I kind of like it. It's kind of therapeutic. Well, I'm excited, so I've been still continuing the research, and I've kind of got a really good handle of the next round of paints that I want to do, paintings, so that is very encouraging and kind of exciting. Ultramarine, if I could spell, Ultramarine violet. Yeah, okay, so I'm not a good speller. Most people find funny, especially when you realize that I used to be a language arts teacher. Cobalt violet. So I do work in a school, and I will go down and hang out in the artists. This is an ultramarine violet. Ooh, look at that. I'm going to have two. There we go. I'm going to mix two different brands together. Let's do that now. Here we go. Ultramarine violet. We're going to mix two of these things together. Here, let's see. Hold on. I know. I'm messing with the camera again. This way you can see that one instead of it being tucked so far back. All right, so I've got a little Winsor Newton one, and then I've got a My Marie blue, but let's see if I can get this off. Ow. Ow, 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 ow. I may have to stop. This is hard on your hand. This really is hard on your hands. That ridge is there to make it so that you can get things on and off quite easily and put some tension on it, but whoa, hard on my hands. Oh, nope. Okay, so this one, I have not opened this one. However, air somehow or another managed to get into it, and it is just hard as a rock. Like, I cannot, this is, I can't even, what I'm squeezing is just the tube itself. So somehow or another air managed to get in, and it looks like there's a puncture mark right there. Okay, it looks like something tried to take a bite out of it, so that's kind of fun. I have no idea what that is, but air got into that. I don't know if you can see these lovely little, will look like two little puncture marks. So that one is toast. Ow, and after I did all that and I hurt my hands opening that, that's a shame. Oh, y'all, for real, that hurts. Those teeth after a while, hence a pair of pliers is really handy. It will save your hands so that you do not do what I'm doing right now. And it actually does hurt. See if I can try using a tissue. Anchor my hands so it's I'm not trying to bite. That helps. So I'm trying to eat into my hands. So I highly recommend that you make sure you have some basic tools, such as a pair of needle nose pliers, flathead screwdriver, plus head screwdriver. There's some basic kind of supplies that, as tools that as an artist you use. A lot of artists, they all have their own kind of list of things that they like to have on hand, depending upon what kind of paint you use, what kind of painting you do. Follow a couple of people on Instagram who have, oh my gosh, they are so amazing. And there's something about being able to watch somebody else paint that's very therapeutic. Almost as therapeutic as painting itself. So I'm going encourage you to do that. I really do. I think painting is a great way to express yourself. There's no right or wrong. You know, it's kind of one of those things where when you're painting, it's your painting. I taught art once upon a time to adults, and you know, it's when you get grown, so to speak, we're so used to rules, and we have all of these expectations of how things should be, and this should look like that, and that should be like this. And art allows you to free yourself up from all of those expectations. And now, while when we first get started, we have a tendency to still hold ourselves to, oh, it must be, it must, that's your expectation. If you release those expectations when you paint, release that, you're going to find that, hey, wait a second, it doesn't have to be like that. It can be whatever you choose it to be. And it's kind of one of the reasons why I like watercolor. I know that there are a lot of people out there who do very detailed, hyper-realistic paintings with watercolor, and man, my hat is off to you, because that is not my style. Uh-oh. This one's starting to dry out. I love doing abstract work because it allows you that sense of freedom. You have to give up control of how precise things are going to look. You can control the colors you use. You can control the amount of water, so you can kind of control the intensity of what you're going to get. You can, I stuck my finger in it. Oh. Yep, that's going to happen. All right. I got my nails done, and then I would start painting, and then my fingernails end up multicolored, so it kind of defeats the purpose of getting your nails done, but oh well. Watercolor allows me this idea, especially the abstract, and I can control the color that I use. I can control the amount of water. But sometimes the final product is often a surprise in terms of, oh, an unexpected, right? A happy accident, so to speak, to borrow from a man, Bob Ross. But taking the time to create, whether it's painting, whether it's woodworking, whatever it is, drawing, but whatever it is that appeals to you to be able to create something, go for it. I highly recommend it. I would tell students, some of the students that I worked with, they had difficulty expressing themselves. And sometimes they would choose to express themselves in ways that were not healthy, not a good coping mechanism. Tell them to just draw out what you feel on a piece of paper. Whatever it is that you're feeling, draw it out on that paper, whatever that looks like to you, and then ball it up, rip it up, do whatever you want to that piece of paper. One of the great things about a piece of paper, especially if you are struggling sometimes, is that that paper can't talk back. The paper isn't going to argue with you. That piece of paper is not going to do anything other than sit there. As an artist, being able to use your emotions and use the colors and the imagery that you're trying to pull from to express that emotion makes very powerful painting. You just have to be willing to show the world, though, some of these paintings. I have one that I had on exhibit and at a gallery opening. And that was an angry painting. I had somebody walk up and they were like, remind me to never be mad at you. That is some serious anger going on in that painting. And part of of me was, you know, wow. But part of me was mortified because for somebody to recognize that was the emotion that was occurring within that painting. And I was like, that's all right. Now, that's exactly what I want. I want somebody to come in and see, as an abstract artist, like that one was all about emotion, and it was about anger and rage and hate. And so the fact that somebody came in, saw that painting, and thought enough, like, y'all, sorry, I can't read that. I think it's a TIT. I'm wearing the wrong glasses. TITANATE, yellow. Like, I'm going to put number 109 Marie Blue in case I wrote the name down wrong. That's what happens when I don't wear my glasses to read. But I was just, you know, as an artist, I was blown away because you never quite know sometimes, you know, especially as an abstract artist, which can be a challenge and sometimes because people are wanting to read into it or see something. And to have somebody come up and be like, oh yeah, that is totally, I see this, and it's actually what you intended. There's nothing quite like that. That is incredibly satisfying. So, and here we go. Pull that around. Tip. Now here's one of the hard parts as an artist. So as I'm sitting here doing this, I really want to paint. I really want to be painting. My space, I don't have separate, my studio space is not large enough where I can have a prep area where I can do this and a separate area where I can paint. So if you have a large enough studio, well, sure, you can do that, and that's awesome. When you get tired of this, you can go paint. I want to paint so bad I can barely stand it, but I also really need to prep my paint so that I have everything that I need available. And so it's a challenge right now because I really want to be painting. And yet I am not. So, sorry, I don't talk very well while I'm writing. I thought I'd figured that out as a teacher. I could write and talk at the same time. Not if I wanted to spell. That was, my spelling is always a kind of a bit of a challenge for me, so that's why I'm always thankful for computers and spell check. Thank you very much. It would help if I was actually, as my paints have come forward, I have pushed myself back, and then you're not able to see. Sorry about that. Naples yellow reddish. So yeah, I sometimes have a hard time with that part, with the whole writing and talking at the same time, especially if I'm not saying what I'm writing. Anybody else find that? So I bet you didn't realize, you know, a little bit. Oh, I have two of those. Ooh, sweet. Okay. And then I have this very strange color. I don't know what this is, so we're gonna add this on here. Jaune. Brilliant. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, awesome. Well, I'm excited to see that I realize that I've had this. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I know some of these are dry, so I'm going to kind of just stack some of these out of my way so I can make some room up here for ones that I know that are wet and get them out of the way so that I can make room Give me a second while I rearrange. Woohoo! All right, now I've got some space. All right. Now you're going to be able to still continue to see. So this is a little tube. Again, every once in a while, I'll pick up the smaller, because when you purchase watercolors, you can purchase them in different sizes. And I will tell you that buying a much smaller size over the larger sizes is probably recommended, especially if you are going to end up doing something like myself where I've not been able to paint in quite some time. There's pros and cons to having the smaller tubes with the way that I paint. However, if you lose just a little bit of paint, it doesn't feel, you don't feel so bad, versus losing a much larger container, much larger tube of paint. It kind of hurts a little bit more that it's been ruined, because that's a lot of paint. All right, so I'm going to do this one just like I do all the others. It'll be a much thinner base, but this kind of helps make sure that it'll dry out kind of evenly. I'll pull some of these others so that you can also see what it kind of looks like when they're dry. Let me find one that worked out really good. All right, so here's one. This is Cupid Green Deep. Oh, and it's tacky. Okay, that's awesome. So it's still in the process of drying out. So I don't know if you can see this. It looks kind of like it's an amoeba. So when it's tacky like this, it's developed a skin, and it's going to start continuing that process of drying out. So that is spectacular. That's exactly what I need. Now, the other nice thing about it, when it's like this, I can actually start using it. I don't like using it when it's like wet, unless it, maybe I do sometimes. If I'm impatient, I'll grab one that's still a little wet and hasn't completely dried out, because you get this, it's heavy, intense color, so I don't need to put in as much water. But no, that's awesome. So that one's kind of tacky to the touch. Let me find one is there one that's actually dry? No, that's still got a skin. That one's got a skin on it. Now I will tell you this. So if you stick, these are still tacky. If you start stacking your paint in these containers, now, oh, there you go. These containers, I'm going to show you. Can you see? This one I'd stacked, and the paint was still wet underneath it. It'll stick to the bottom, and then now you have paint on the bottom of your containers. All right, so it's kind of wishful thinking for me to stack these. They have not. They've just formed a skin, but it will stick. Okay, so now this one had already started drying. So see that? That's really hard. Like I cannot, my fingernail doesn't go in there. My fingernail doesn't make an indentation in it. Like I can really try. I'd have to really push on it to get that there. And that's because this one had already started drying out. So I can stack one of these on top. Now, ideally, when you do this, they're not touching one another. However, these had a rim on it, and so I liked it because then when I stack, it doesn't necessarily go all the way down the bottom. These will most definitely, okay, I can't stack these until they're dry, which is fine. But it does hinder some things. Let me find my Indian yellow. Ow. Yeah, my hands. This hurts my hands. I'm going to have to end up taking a breather. I'm going to finish these yellow/oranges, variations of yellows, and take a pause and have to go do something else. And then I'll only have the blues left. Give my hands a bit of a break. So I mentioned that I also knit. Ow! That hurts! Oh my gosh, y'all. Okay. I bet you didn't realize you gotta have strong hands to do some of this. Ow. It hurts. I knit and crochet. I do that. It's a great stress relief for me. I like being able to make things, okay? And especially when a lot of times I can make something and then give it away as a gift or make it for a friend. I enjoy that. I enjoy being able to do that a great deal. So just like I like to have every color of paint, I may or may not like to have just about every color I can get my hands on yarn. So not only do I like to knit, but I also collect yarn, which might seem a little strange, but I use, and I like to use kind of unique fibers that are out there, such as Arctic Fox. There's a place called Aurora Yarns in Alaska, and they get Arctic Fox. I mean, oh my gosh. You want to talk about here. Let's see if I can adjust this again so that sorry, my camera. All right. Side note, as you could probably figure out, my video skills are limited. And my camera set up. Y'all, these things. Okay. So I'm having to learn some of that, which is fine, but I'm used to doing video where, it's your face, right? I do presentations a lot. So I videotaped a presentation, and that's easy. That's no big deal. But this being this is a good camera. Okay, so notice how this one is separated. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see how some of the swirls in there? This one is separated in the container. So I'm gonna grab my screwdriver again, mix it together. And then try to get off as much as I can off onto the side. There we go. All right, that's better. Cadmium yellow deep, and then this last one is these two. But, oh, thank goodness that one came off easy. My hands are like, I don't know if you can see, but like this is now raw. These lids are no joke, folks. Just as an FYI, if you haven't already figured out, I do have some ADD tendencies, so I will start talking about one thing, entirely forget what I was talking about before, and may not ever go back to that subject. So sorry in advance. And I had a student. Oh my God, one year I had some students who were like, ooh, so they would nickname it a squirrel, because they would try to engage in a conversation. I caught on to them pretty quickly. I mean, this is not unknown to me that this happens for myself, and especially as a teacher, you have to be kind of mindful of the things that you do that are not necessarily helpful to instruction, such as being easily distracted. So ADD is, a challenge when you are in that. Okay, well, yeah, okay, all right. This has kind of got a yellowish red. It's a yellow deep. Oh, Naples yellow deep. Hello, Naples yellow reddish. Uh-oh. Y'all, I put the wrong Naples yellow deep. I wrote the wrong label. Okay, it's just me. I just wrote the wrong thing. All right. I can live with that. I can fix that. They would refer to it as a squirrel and see if they could get me to go off topic. Because one of the things about teaching language arts, it's all about storytelling in a lot of ways. Because you're encouraging your students to write adequate stories, and you use your own stories to do that. All right, let me correct this. Naples yellow, reddish. And I saw them later, and they were like, yeah, we would try to just, they're like, oh yeah, we would get you off topic. And I was like, well, actually, I kind of knew you were doing that. Oh, that one has started to just come apart too. All right. It's just being mindful But y'all, making videos like this is not like with the camera is mounted and the thing is on a little ball, and because of the way that I've got the camera angled, that little ball doesn't want to hold its place all the time, so it slowly over time starts to move. All right, y'all, this one is also not right. I'm gonna stop after this one. My hands are killing me. But I need to stir this one. It has separated in some places, so I don't know that this camera is allowing you to see how that separation looks and the difference between the two. So once you stir it, it kind of looks like it's all creamy. Hello, get the bubbles out of there. It's all creamy, which is kind of what you want. Wipe off my screwdriver over here. I really shouldn't be using the screwdriver, but oh well, use what's on hand. And I'm going to tap this because I want to try to get some of those air bubbles to come out. And you'll see them slowly pop. See that big one off to the side. And because I, use the screwdriver to stir it up. Come on now. Don't let me have to get in there and pop you. These bubbles do not want to go away. They want to stick around, don't they? Pink. All those little teeny tiny air bubbles, I need those to go away. In some ways it's not bad, but at the same time can impact what I want to do. All right, let's see if I can bring any more up to the surface. All right, well, folks, that's going to be all I'm going to do for right now, because I don't know if you can see how red my finger is. Like, that is just, that hurts. And then this side, can you see the discoloration between this and this? Yeah, that's because that hurts. And the same thing is on my thumb. Like, that's really red and really raw. So put two fingers there, that way you can kind of see the difference. Like, that's so super, super red, and that side right there, it just hurts. So I'm going to take a pause. I'm going to put a pin in this, if you will. I hope you have a great day, and I hope that you decide at some point to pick up some sort of artistic endeavor, some sort of creative endeavor, or something that you get to create all on your own. Because it's as simple as often is picking up a piece of a pencil and a piece of paper. It doesn't require that you have any special supplies, that you have any special materials. You can quite literally do this with just paper and pencil. So I hope that over time I get to encourage you to paint and experiment and play. I hope you have a great day today. And yeah, I don't think I'm going to do another one of these videos, because that just really does hurt. I'm going to have to do this kind of a little bit over more time than I planned on, because that is just, my fingers are just rubbed raw. Have an amazing day. I'm going to go back to my other project. I am sorting out all of my yarn, which is actually quite the task. I'm almost done. It's taken me like 2 days to do that. I don't know, maybe I should have videotaped the painful process that was. Not really painful. Sometimes one makes yarn purchases that it's kind of like you purchase a paint and you're like, why did I buy that paint? That's the ugliest thing I've seen. And yet it works out all right. So go have a great one today, and I'll see you in the next video.